September 29th, 1833. The royal palace of Madrid is silent, but not in peace. Inside the king's chambers, a man lies dying, not from battle wounds or old age, but from a disease that is eating him alive. His skin is covered in open sores. The smell is unbearable. His moans echo down the empty corridors. Servants and courtiers keep their distance. Even his doctors treat him with gloves and disgust. This is Ferdinand VII, King of Spain, a man who ruled with absolute power, but who used his throne not to serve his people, but to satisfy the darkest parts of himself. His body, now rotting in front of everyone's eyes, is the final punishment for a life filled with cruelty, abuse, and unspeakable acts. He called himself a protector of tradition and religion, but in the end, he became a symbol of shame. His story is not one of glory or greatness. It is the story of the most perverted king in history. But Ferdinand's story is not just about personal sin. His behavior had consequences far beyond the walls of his palace. While he chased his sick pleasures, his kingdom fell apart. The Spanish Empire, once one of the most powerful in the world, lost its colonies one by one. The economy collapsed. People starved, and trust in the monarchy was destroyed. If Ferdinand had ruled with any sense of duty or morality, Spain might have remained strong. But instead, his endless desire for control over women, his cruelty toward his wives, and his hunger for power left the country weak and broken. Spain was no longer feared or respected. It was mocked. His own daughter inherited a throne covered in disgrace. And for generations, his name would be remembered not as a king, but as a monster in royal clothing. The birth of a tyrant. Ferdinand was born on October 14th, 1784, into one of Europe's most powerful royal families. He was the son of King Charles IV of Spain and Queen Maria Louisa of Parma. But behind the polished walls of the palace, the royal household was a mess. The court was full of gossip, betrayal, and secret affairs. His mother was known for having many lovers, including Manuel Godoy, a man who rose to power not by merit, but through her favor. From the very start, Ferdinand was surrounded by lies and corruption. As a child, Ferdinand showed disturbing signs. By the age of 10, he was already cruel. He tortured animals for fun. He humiliated servants and made them perform degrading tasks just to amuse himself. His tutors tried to discipline him, but anyone who spoke against the young prince was quickly removed. No one could stop him. While other royal children were taught art, philosophy, and diplomacy, Ferdinand showed no interest in learning. He rejected books, mocked his instructors, and avoided anything that didn't bring him instant pleasure. Instead, he developed a twisted obsession, spying on others. He ordered holes drilled into the walls of the palace so he could secretly watch the private moments of his courtiers. He didn't care about ruling or helping his people. From a young age, all he wanted was control, pleasure, and power over others. These early years weren't just a warning sign. They were the foundation of everything that would follow, a reign built not on leadership, but on pure corruption. At the age of 18, Ferdinand was married to his cousin, Maria Antonia of Naples. The marriage was meant to make him more responsible, to calm his wild nature. But it did the opposite. Instead of treating his young wife with respect, he abused her. Court records and personal letters describe the marriage as a nightmare. Behind closed doors, Ferdinand forced her into degrading acts and treated her like property, not a partner. Maria Antonia, a religious and well-educated woman, soon became withdrawn. She avoided him as much as possible, choosing isolation over suffering. As Ferdinand grew older, his behavior became even worse. He realized that his position as prince, and later as king, gave him power over everyone at court. He started blackmailing the women around him, especially married ladies-in-waiting. He would threaten their families, their husbands, their reputations, unless they gave in to his twisted desires. To him, seducing a married woman was not just about lust. It was a way to humiliate the men around him, to prove he was untouchable. When Maria Antonia died suddenly at the age of 21, rumors spread quickly. Officially, it was tuberculosis, but many believed she had been poisoned or simply died of heartbreak. Ferdinand's reaction was chilling. He showed no sorrow. Instead, he joked that he was finally free to enjoy himself even more. The people around him, especially the nobles, stayed silent. They feared him. They knew that refusing him could destroy their lives. And so, little by little, the royal court became a hunting ground, a place where one man's sickness was allowed to grow without limits. Political cowardice and the rise of a monster. In 1808, Spain faced one of its greatest threats, the invasion of Napoleon's army. While the people were preparing to fight for their country, Ferdinand saw a different opportunity. Instead of standing strong, he betrayed his own nation. During the uprising known as the Mutiny of Aranjuez, his father, King Charles IV, was forced to abdicate the throne. But Ferdinand, instead of defending Spain's independence, secretly reached out to Napoleon, offering to hand over control in exchange for personal safety and power. The two met in the French town of Bayonne. Witnesses described Ferdinand as pitiful, begging Napoleon like a servant, offering anything just to keep his title. Even Napoleon, who had seen many weak rulers before, was shocked by Ferdinand's cowardice. He later said he had never met a man so unworthy of wearing a crown. Napoleon took advantage of Ferdinand's weakness and sent him into exile at the Château de Valençay in France. But exile did not humble him. While Spain burned and people died fighting the French, Ferdinand lived in comfort. He threw parties, slept with prostitutes, and continued his life of indulgence. Letters later discovered by French spies showed that he constantly asked for more women to be sent to him, never once mentioning the suffering of his people back home. In 1814, after Napoleon's fall, Ferdinand returned to Spain. The country hoped for a fresh start, but instead of rebuilding, he brought back fear and repression. One of his first acts was to restore the Spanish Inquisition, not out of faith, but as a tool to crush his enemies and control women. He used accusations of heresy to blackmail families, forcing women to sleep with him in exchange for their safety. His second marriage, to Princess Isabel of Portugal, was just another tragedy. She was only 19. He was already known for his cruelty. The abuse she suffered would be even worse than what his first wife endured. Under Ferdinand, the court turned into a marketplace of corruption. Government jobs were handed out in exchange for access to women. Ministers weren't chosen for their intelligence or loyalty, but for the beauty of their wives and daughters. The palace became a brothel hiding behind royal titles. And at the center of it all stood Ferdinand, a king who ruled not with wisdom, but with appetite. As the years went on, Ferdinand's actions became even more disturbing. By the 1820s, his court was no longer just corrupt, it was dangerous. He kept dozens of mistresses inside the palace, including nuns who were forced to break their vows through threats and blackmail. He developed a sick obsession with virgins, offering money and favors to those who could bring him young, inexperienced girls. Some families, trapped in poverty, gave up their daughters just to survive. Others were too afraid to refuse. The pain he caused wasn't only behind closed doors. Spain itself was collapsing. While Ferdinand fed his twisted desires, the empire fell apart. One by one, Spanish colonies in the Americas declared independence. The economy was in ruins. The streets were filled with hunger and anger. But Ferdinand did nothing. He ignored his responsibilities as king. His focus remained only on pleasure, no matter the cost. His third wife, Maria Josepha Amalia of Saxony, was just 20 when she was married to him. She lasted only 2 years before dying under the same dark cloud as the others. Doctors said she suffered severe trauma and deep depression. Some believed she was driven to death by the same abuse that had killed his previous wives. Still, Ferdinand felt no guilt. Within months, he married again. His fourth and final wife, Maria Cristina of Bourbon II Sicilies, was the only one who survived him. But this was not because he had changed. By the time they married in 1829, Ferdinand was already gravely ill. The same syphilis he had caught years earlier had begun to rot his body and damage his mind. He was no longer the terrifying predator of his younger years. He was now a broken, sick man living in constant pain. His body was covered in ulcers. His mind slipped into confusion. The palace, once filled with fear of him, now smelled of death. By 1833, Ferdinand was completely abandoned. His victims were dead or gone. His courtiers stayed away, disgusted by the stench and horror of his condition. Even the doctors treated him only because they had to. The man who once ruled through fear and lust now lay helpless, consumed by the very life he had chosen. His end was not noble. It was not heroic. It was exactly what he had earned. Ferdinand died on September 29, 1833, in the same palace where he had once ruled with absolute power. But there were no tears, no mourning crowds, no nation in sorrow. Only silence and relief. The man who had terrorized women, ignored his people, and dragged a powerful empire into the mud was finally gone. Those who had suffered under him called it justice. His funeral was cold and quiet, a final insult to a king who had once demanded worship. He left behind one legitimate daughter, Isabel, who would become queen. But what she inherited was not just a crown. It was a broken country. Spain had lost almost all of its colonies. Its economy was shattered. Its people were angry and divided. The throne itself was stained, not just by bad leadership, but by shame. Ferdinand had turned kingship into something twisted, something dirty. His name became a warning. History remembers him not for victories or reforms, but for cruelty and corruption. During his reign, Spain went from global power to global embarrassment. He ruled not with strength, but with weakness disguised as pride. He used religion as a weapon and love as a tool for control. And in the end, he became the perfect example of what happens when power is given to a man without conscience. Today, centuries later, Ferdinand is not honored. He is studied, not praised. He is remembered not as a king, but as a predator. His life, full of abuse and selfishness, is a dark reminder that even those born into greatness can fall lower than anyone ever imagined. No crown, no title, no power can protect someone from the weight of their own sins. History is full of rulers who shaped the world, some through greatness, others through horror. Ferdinand VII reminds us that power doesn't always bring wisdom, and that a crown can hide the darkest of hearts. If you found this story shocking, important, or eye-opening, take a moment to share it. These are the parts of history people often forget or try to hide. Don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories from history's darkest corners. And if you want to see more videos like this one, leave a comment below. Who should we uncover next? Thanks for watching. And remember, those who ignore the past are doomed to repeat it.